Okay, here we go. We are ready for vision and manifestation. Give ourselves a moment here to get things kicked off. Welcome if you're joining us from YouTube. I'm thrilled that you're here. Let's get rolling. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on where you are around the world. I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is Vision and Manifestation, and I'm going to be sharing some keys with you so that you can really begin right now to live a life that you absolutely love living. So I'm going to start a PowerPoint in a moment, but first I wanted to just invite you to grab something to write with if you don't have something already. The purpose of this webinar is actually so that you can apply these principles to your life to create what it is that matters to you. So one of the best ways to do that is to participate in the activities that we're going to be going through as we go about our time together today, and to give you an opportunity to write down inspired ideas or insights or action steps that you may want to take as a result of joining us on this webinar. So I'm thrilled you're here. Let me start my slides and we'll get rolling here. So this is Vision and Manifestation, 3 keys to live the life you love. And for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Erica Fay, and I have for the last 22, going on 23 years, been a student and a practitioner in the personal development arena. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified success and performance coach. And I work with athletes all over the world. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my story as we go about our time together today. But I'm thrilled you're here. And I want to just celebrate you for taking time out of your busy schedule to really pour into you. So for the purposes of our time together, what if this was a needle mover for your life? What if this was a game changer for you? What if you were able to really leave here feeling inspired, and not only feeling inspired, but taking action in a whole new way with a whole new level of energy to create even greater things for your life? Would that be okay with you? Well, I would love for that to happen. And that's one of the reasons why I am here and sharing this information with you. And so you are in the right place today. So touch your heart for a moment and give yourself credit for showing up and for pouring into you and your life and your dreams and goals. So I want to start with a story, and this is kind of a silly story, but I always like to start with stories. And I'm just going to invite you to imagine that there was a little mother mouse, and she was walking through her house with her 4 children, and she was just kind of going about her business. And then all of a sudden they turn the corner and they see this cat, and the cat looks hungry. And the cat starts to advance towards the mother mouse, and the mother mouse gathers her children behind her. And she all of a sudden raises up on her hind legs, and in as loud a voice as she can muster, she yells, "Roof, roof, 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 roof." And the cat kind of backs up and gets kind of scared, and he runs away. And she turns to her kids and she says, "Now, children, never underestimate the power of learning more than one language." And I love that story. It's kind of silly, but I think that it's really important to know for all of us that there is a language to success. And once you actually understand what this language is, it becomes way easier for you to turn the goals and dreams that you have in your heart into your reality. And that's what we're going to be doing today. So think for a moment if there's any area of your life that you'd like to improve. My guess is if you're here, there is. And actually, to be truly honest, there's an area of my life that I would like to improve too. As long as we're breathing, we are noticing that we would love for things to improve. It doesn't mean that necessarily things need to get terrible, but just imagine, or perhaps you are facing a challenge right now. Just bring to mind what that challenge is, or what the area of your life is that you would like to improve. And what would that mean to you to have that transformed, to have it all work out, perhaps in a way that was even better than you could have even imagined? So we're going to keep that area of your life in mind. So keeping the challenge in mind, keeping the area of your life that you'd like to improve, if there's a specific problem that you're facing. And here's my intention for our time together. I'm going to give you 3 tools to really help you achieve your goals even faster. And I'm also going to support you in gaining greater clarity on your goals and your dreams. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Or you think I'm going to? Excuse me. Yes, I am. So I apologize for that. And then finally, that you'll feel even more confident in your ability to go after your goals and dreams and really feel confident that they are coming to you, that you're on your way. So I'm going to invite you to start with this question. Think about your life and reflect back. Perhaps it's recent, perhaps it's, way out there in the distant past, but have you ever achieved a goal or a dream? When you first set out with that goal or a dream, you had no idea how you were going to make that happen. Just think for a moment. Maybe it was getting your driver's license. Maybe it was graduating from college or starting a business or getting drafted or, moving up to the main roster, whatever it is. Think for a moment about how that felt to achieve that goal or that dream. Perhaps it happened even easier than you thought, or quicker than you thought, or perhaps it was really a challenge. And I ask you about this because this proves a point. When we set out with our goals and our big dreams, we often don't know how it's going to happen, but we all have evidence in our lives that we have accomplished a goal or a dream. And that is evidence to support the fact that you are far more capable than you know. And why this matters to you now is you may have a challenge you're facing or a dream that you would love, and you have no idea how that's going to come to fruition or how you are going to make that happen. It doesn't mean it's not possible for you. It just means you don't know all of the steps yet. And I'm going to support you in learning some of the things that you can actually put into practice now that will accelerate progress. So if you think of the challenge that you're facing or the area of your life that you'd like to improve, it's important to know this. Our goals and our dreams are often born out of the challenges that we face. So think for a moment about that. I think that's a powerful statement. Most of us can have the human side of our nature is easy to get discouraged when we face a challenge. But what if we saw challenges as an opportunity for the birth of a new goal or a new dream? And from challenge, we see 2 signals for growth. We notice longing and discontent. So the longing for something to change, or the longing for the vision, or the longing for the goal, and the discontent with the way things are in perhaps your present circumstances. So we know that when we're experiencing longing and discontent, this is a desire to grow past our current circumstances. And I'm going to give you an example of this in my own life in just a moment. But I love this quote by Dr. Michael Beckwith. He is the founder of the Agape Center for Truth in Los Angeles. And he says, we are often pushed by pain until we're pulled by a vision. So think for a moment about your challenge. What's the pain in the challenge? And think about what you would love for that to look like if it were all worked out. I'm going to give you some more time for this in just a couple minutes. These essential energies, the pain of your problem and the burning desire for what you would really love to create, those are 2 essential energies in creating your results. Think for a moment, you know this, because if there's no desire for something else, or if there's no pain of a current circumstance, there's no motivation to change, right? So what we're doing together today is I'm going to stoke the fire of the dream in you so that you are not just pushed by pain, but you're pulled by this burning desire to accomplish the desires of your heart and to show up in a way in your life and in this world that feels really meaningful and on purpose to you. So let me tell you a little bit about a time in my life where these two essential energies, pain and desire, created new results in my life. I had always had the dream when I decided to become a marriage and family therapist to open a private practice. And it had taken me years. I always kept putting it off because I didn't know how to be a business owner, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when I finally opened my private practice and hung the shingle, so to speak, I was thrilled. I was seeing clients. I was, I had my own office. I had windows. I felt like I was living my dream. I was working with clients who were motivated, which was a different experience from some of my other settings that I was working in. And I really was like, gosh, I've arrived. I'm living my dream. And so I got really, really curious because I started to notice that there was a part of me that was like, there's more for you. And I was like, what is this? That's not true. I'm living my dream. I said I wanted to open my private practice, and here I am. I'm have my private practice. So I pushed it off for a while, but then I started to notice that I got a little curious about the whole coaching arena. And I started to think, most of the philosophies that resonated with me from a therapist perspective were very solution-oriented, growth-oriented, forward-focused. And I got curious about coaching. And one of the things that I was noticing in terms of a longing or a discontent was I was noticing that I was taking clients from like crisis to crisis or struggle to struggle. And what I was really longing to do was to support people in living a life that feels, alive and sustained and transformed instead of, just kind of having band-aids for things or resolving one crisis and then going to the next. And so when I found the idea, or when I started to entertain the idea of coaching, I had started to look around for a number of different programs, but it didn't really do anything seriously other than just, kind of browse the internet for different programs. And it was interesting. One day I came home from work and I was noticing that longing, particularly that specific day. I remember just being a little frustrated and really having a strong desire for some additional support for my clients. I wanted to I felt like I wasn't being as effective as I wanted to be with people. And interestingly enough, there's that old adage, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I was going through my email that night, and I noticed that email came in. At that time, it was the Life Mastery Institute. It's now the Brave Thinking Institute, but it was from Mary Morrissey. And I opened the email, and there was a video in there, and I listened to what she had to say about coaching. And one of the things that really appealed to me was Mary was talking about how we are humans, but we have a spiritual side of our nature, so that we're actually spiritual beings having a human experience. And that just resonated with me. And the minute I heard her saying this, I'm like, this is the place. So the next day I reached out, I made a call. I had a discovery session set up, and I applied and got accepted to become certified as a coach with the then Life Mastery Institute, which is now Brave Thinking Institute. I went through a rigorous training process and became certified in the success principles that actually Mary had spent the last 40 years of her life studying. And the cool thing that I noticed that they had done was that Mary and the Brave Thinking Institute had codified 10 success principles that, when applied and when repeated, you can apply to any area of your life, and you will see transformational results. So I am so happy and grateful now that I am certified to help others and help you master your results and master these principles and tools to make any dream a reality. And this is all based on, like I said, the study of success and transformation that Mary has codified over the last 40 years with 10 principles that are reliable, predictable, and repeatable. And when you apply them to your life, you can turn any goal into the landscape of your reality. So I'm going to share 3 of these principles with you today, and so that you can take what it is that matters to you and apply it to your life. And here's my promise to you. I'm going to invite you to stay until the very end because I am going to pour into you and give you as much as I possibly can in our short time together today. And I said I'm going to give you 3 of the 10 principles that the Befriending Institute had codified that highly successful people know you apply and then you see results over and over again so that you can create what matters to you in your life. And I'm going to invite you to stay until the very end because those of you that resonate with this information, I'm going to invite you to reach out to me. I have a very special gift for you, and I'm going to tell you about that at the very end. So if we look at the power of vision, this is something, you know, this whole webinar is titled Vision and Manifestation. Manifestation is not magic. It's not a fluke. And I'm going to share the keys so that you can master your results and create a life that you absolutely love living. And so there's something really important when we notice our results. There's 2 ways that all of us create our results in our lives. We can create either by design, which is vision driven, or we can create by default, which is based on old paradigms. And then I'm going to tell you more about paradigms in a little bit. And we have the opportunity to create by design or default. So if you look at your life, and I like to use this 4-quadrant system, your relationships, your health and well-being, your vocation, your time and money freedom, bring to mind the quadrant that you know you're experiencing the most challenge in. And these are your results, what your relationships look like, what your health and well-being looks like, what your vocation looks like, what your time and money freedom looks like. Our thinking actually creates our results, and I'm going to share with you a little bit more about that, but let's play a game first. So actually, let me back up. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds. I'm going to move to the next slide, and I'm going to give you 10 seconds. I'm going to time you, so I'll keep the time. And I'm going to invite you to look for everything that's yellow. Now count. When you find something yellow, say 1, 2. See how many things that are yellow that you can find. And then I'm going to stop you and invite you to close your eyes once we get rolling here. So let me start the timer. All right. All right. Go. Find everything that's yellow. Look for yellow, 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 look for yellow. Okay, stop. Close your eyes. Now, how much red did you see? How many red items? Then you can open your eyes. Now, how many of you saw more red than yellow? You can type in the chat. Yeah. No, most people saw more yellow than red. And why is that? So there's an area of our brains called the reticular activating system. And the whole job of the reticular activating system is to filter out of our awareness what we're not looking for and filter into our awareness what we are looking for. So you may have had this experience where, let's say you want to buy a red Jeep and you see the red Jeep everywhere when you decide like, oh, I'm looking for a red Jeep. All of a sudden there's a million red Jeeps out on the street. And so this is just an example of how the reticular activating system works. And why this matters to you is that when you are focused on something, whether it's a vision or a problem or a challenge or a goal, you will see more of what is in harmony with that. So you may have heard that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thinking. And the reality is you are wired for this. So what we look at, what we spend time in our thoughts thinking about, spend time in our life thinking about, we will bring about. And we know that if we're always focused on problems, we are going to see one problem after another. And so let me tell you a little bit more about how this works. So take a look up here at this slide. If you're new to this with me, you may have not seen this before, but I think it's a powerful way to really illustrate this point. We call this the results formula. Our thoughts are actually constantly being impressed and informing our feelings. So think for a moment, I lost my phone. Perhaps you've had that experience. The minute you have that thought, how do you feel? So this is a great example. I know this with me, I get anxious. So our thoughts are constantly being impressed and informing our feelings. And then our feelings are ultimately what informs our actions. So you know this to be true also. If you feel confident, you take very different action than if you feel afraid. Most people will seize up and take no action if they feel afraid. And I know that you know this to be true too. Sometimes the mere fact of having a dream or a goal stirs up that fear. And the fact that you don't know how to make it happen, you'll let it go. Not you, because you're here, but this is what I've seen over and over and over again. I've seen it in my own life, and I'm training myself not to do that anymore. And I've seen this with clients, and I've seen this all over the place. So our thoughts are constantly being impressed and informing our feelings. Our feelings are ultimately what informs our actions based on how we're feeling when we take the action or whether or not we take an action step. And then our actions ultimately dictate our results. So the first form of our results is in our thinking. So look again at these 4 quadrants of life: relationships, health and well-being, vocation, and time and money freedom. Some people reject this idea because they don't like that their thoughts are the first cause of their results. It's really easy to go down the, well, I can't because, and I'll tell you some more about that in a moment. But our thoughts are the first cause. So the everything good and what you have a desire for more in your life right now has been created by the levels of thinking that you've been doing. And I'm going to tell you some more about paradigms as we go about our time together, but I wanted to just kind of introduce the idea that a paradigm is a set of beliefs that inform our behaviors that act as kind of a results thermostat. So, if you know that you're a person who has constantly kind of been looking outside of yourself saying, I'll be happy when, or I'll be grateful when, that's actually based on an old program. That's based on an old belief system that got installed in you. You didn't choose your paradigm. It got installed in you based on your heredity, based on who you were raised by, based on authority figures, all of these things that are well-meaning people. And in a lot of ways, your paradigm may have served you very well, but there's a certain kind of cap to the results that we each have been programmed to achieve in our lives. And once we actually know that and can work with that paradigm and reprogramming that's where the magic starts to happen. So the first key to really creating new results is to begin to notice your thoughts. Start noticing what you're noticing. Because if we're not paying attention to what we're thinking, we're just going to be running the old paradigm. This is just like training your body in sports or starting an exercise routine. You can't go to the gym and expect that you're going to be benching 270 right off the bat or running a 5-minute mile right off the bat after sitting on the couch for 3 years or whatever the case might be. But once we start noticing what we're noticing our thinking, we're training ourselves to pay attention to what is running in our thoughts. And part of what we're going to be working with today is noticing what is in alignment or what's out of alignment with your vision, your goal, where you want to end up. So an example of paying attention to your thoughts might be, well, I'm just not cut out for this type of position, let's say in a job. That's a narrative. And if that's the narrative that continues to play, you're going to feel how that feels. And most likely you're going to experience the result of that too, not being cut out for the position. So we want to make sure that we're being really mindful of where our thoughts are going. And we're not going to be 100% with this. The idea is that we're going to start noticing what we're noticing so we can tell if we're on track with our goals or off track. And so I'm going to invite you now. This is a lesson and a practice in noticing what we're noticing. We're going to do a life assessment here. And I'm going to invite you to notice your current results. And as we do this is a brave thing to do. So first off, I want to celebrate you for choosing to engage in this life assessment. And the purpose of this life assessment is not to beat yourself up or to judge or to say, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be further along, whatever. the idea is that this is a non-judgmental assessment for the purpose of your understanding your current results and for the purpose of setting tracks for a whole new level of success and fulfillment and freedom in your life. So grab your paper and your pen, and let's start with your health quadrant. You might be a person who feels stuck in your ability to transform your health. Or you might be a person who has relatively good health with no symptoms, but you know there's more vibrancy and aliveness that you can feel. So for a moment, take inventory of your health. Notice your current results. And if you were to rate your level of satisfaction with your health and well-being on a scale of 1 to 5, what number would you give it? 5 being, I'm so happy and so satisfied, and this quadrant could not get any better. And 1 being, I thought, oh. Again, non-judgmental. This is for the purpose of your growth. This is between you and you. You don't have to share this with anybody. Okay, we're going to move along here for the purposes of time. So now we're going to do a life assessment in your current results in love and relationships. How fulfilled, how satisfied, how alive do you feel in your friendships, in your family relationships, in your love relationship? You might be a person who longs to have a beautiful, deep, fun, and passionate relationship with a loving and a caring partner. Or you would love to deepen and expand and have more fun with a relationship you're already in. So what would you say overall in your assessment of your love and relationships quadrant? If you were to give it a number, 1 being a long way to go, haven't even moved the needle on this one, or 5 being I'm so thrilled with my love and relationships, what would you pick? What would you say is a good reflection of where you are with your results? All right, now let's move to vocation or creative expression. Think for a moment about how fulfilled you really are doing what you're doing for work, doing what you're doing. Maybe you're longing for additional creative expression. You might be a person who feels stuck in a position you don't like, or you like your work, but you work too many hours and you want more freedom, more time freedom. Notice your current results, your vocation and creative expression quadrant, life assessment on a scale of 1 to 5. What number would you give yourself based on where you are right now? Okay, and let's move to the time and money freedom quadrant. So notice the results in your time and money freedom. And again, just wanted to remind you, this is for the purposes of assessing. This isn't for the purposes of judgment or beating ourselves up or anything. And I'm reminding you because this is something that I've had to remind myself of, and working with self-compassion is definitely something that is a green growing edge, I think, for a lot of people, and myself included. You might be a person who doesn't have the money freedom to do the things that you really want to do, or to give and contribute to the causes and organizations that matter to you most. You might be a person who is missing important moments and is not going where you want to go, traveling or having as much fun as you would and play as you would like in your life. You might be a person who feels out of balance, like you have more time than money or more money than time, and you'd love to feel more in harmony. So on a scale of 1 to 5, notice your current results in the time and money freedom quadrant. And I'm just going to invite you, when you're looking at these 4 quadrants, there might be a specific quadrant that gets your attention more than the others, or where you notice that you are having even more longing for a transformation. If you were to look at the results in all 4 quadrants, what number do you think you'd give yourself for overall life satisfaction? Most of us have 1 or 2 quadrants that we want to improve at a time. And what I've found, in full transparency, and myself included, as long as we're growing, we have a desire for more. So there's always, an aspect of love and relationships that I would love to deepen in my life, and health and well-being, whether it's, recovering from an injury, or wanting to run faster, or whatever it is. My vocation, wanting to serve even more people, and really take the consciousness of sport and raise it to a whole new level. And time and money freedom. There might be, an area of your life where, you want to make sure that you're available to take care of your family, and then also have the time to go where you want to go, and give what you want to give, and serve the things that are most meaningful to you. Take for a moment a look at the life assessment that we just did in health and well-being, love and relationships, vocation, and time and money freedom. And pick, for our purposes today, since we have about 30 minutes left, the quadrant that you would most love to improve. Look at where the number perhaps is the lowest. And there might be a couple of them, and that's okay, but pick one that feels the most meaningful to you right now for our purposes of our time together. And the good news is you're noticing some longing and discontent. So this is an indication that you're growing, and you're here because you're committed to your growth. And so for a moment, notice what you're longing for in that area of your life. Notice what you're discontent with in that area of your life. We know that longing and discontent are required for growth. They're required. The way that we operate, the way that we feel motivated to change, involves noticing longing and noticing discontent. So the next question when we're noticing the longing and the discontent is to ask, what is this costing me? What is it costing me to be where I am right now? So an example of this was, I had a client who had a really great job, and she felt like it was, she was doing some meaningful work, but she was working way too many hours. And she was the one saying way too many hours. She was noticing that she was leaving early in the morning and wasn't able to see her kids in the morning, and then was getting home sometimes after they came home or after they were in bed, when she was coming home from work. So she was noticing that she was experiencing some longing to have more freedom to be with her kids. And she noticed that it was costing her time. As their kids are getting older, she's having less and less of an opportunity to really be with them. So she really got clear about, like, this is costing me the relationships potentially with my kids, these precious moments that are so fleeting because kids are growing so fast. And I know all of you as parents can relate to that. I know I can. That old saying, like, the days are long, but the years are short. It couldn't be more true. So just see, what is the longing and discontent in your life costing you right now? And this is just the beginning here. This is just the beginning. This is just a jumping off point for you. So there's no right or wrong answer in this. And just be reminded, this is the good news. You're noticing a longing for something more. You're noticing some discontent with your current circumstances, and those are the 2 signals that are required for growth. And by means of you participating in this event today, you're saying yes to your growth. And so celebrate yourself for that, because not all people are here and not all people commit to this. Every one of us has a dream somewhere inside of us. And I mentioned at the top of our call together that our Longing and our discontent and the dreams and goals are often born out of the challenges that we face. So this leads me to principle number 1. This is the first principle, and that is designing your vision. So Howard Thurman has a great quote where he says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that, because the world needs more people who have come alive. And I love that quote, because if you think about what makes you come alive, there's a great question you can ask yourself. And that question is, what would I love? If it all worked out, imagine, bring to mind that area of challenge or the quadrant that you noticed the lowest number score in. If it all worked out, if time wasn't an issue, if money wasn't an issue, if education or experience or conditions were not a factor, you could wave a magic wand, what would you really love? I'm going to invite you to allow yourself to dream big here. There's something that happens as we grow up when maybe when we were kids, we're really good at using our imagination and saying, oh, one day I want to be president, and the next day I want to be an astronaut or an actress or whatever it is. But when we get older, sometimes we hear from the voice of practicality that actually shuts down the dreams of our heart. So if you think about the desire that you have in you, what would you love? What would you love to create in that area of your life that you're noticing is the lowest score? And I'm going to invite you to do this with every single quadrant, but for the purposes, like I said, of our time together, just focus on the one for today. And just sit with this question, what would I love? And see what emerges. So I'm going to give you a moment and just see if you can start to journal. When you ask the question, what would I love? Even if you're not sure if what you're writing or what you're hearing, that part of you that's coming up with ideas, if that's something you'd really love, start the ball rolling here. This is the creative process. Just allow yourself to dream and dream big here. And so clarity is power with designing the vision. Once you get clear, it makes it very easy, a lot easier for you to know where you're going. So here's an example of what I would love. And this has evolved over time. Like I mentioned to you, I have a story about how everything has kind of evolved for me and using the longing and the discontent to kind of transform my life. But I would love to have a business that impacts millions of athletes all over the world and raises the collective consciousness of sport. And so that's my large vision. That's my what would I love. Do I know all of the steps to get there? No, but I would love that. And so once we begin to have the vision, have the dream, then we can actually begin to work with some images for that vision. Again, clarity is power. If we say we want a lot of money, what does that mean? That's not clear. You can't go to the bank and say, I want a lot of money. So perhaps your dream is, starting a business or attracting the love of your life or having a child or moving up to the main roster or winning Olympic gold or being healthy and strong and being able to move with effortless ease in your body. You're the highest authority on what you would love. So I'm going to invite you now. Here's an opportunity. We've spent some time with the question, what would you love? And I know we're going through this at breakneck speed. So just be gentle with yourself if you're noticing, like, I'm not really sure. I feel like I need more time with this. Or perhaps like, I know this has been my dream for a long time and I've been putting it off. Regardless, wherever you are is exactly where you're meant to be. I'm going to invite you to take that quadrant that you're noticing the most longing, the most discontent in, and marry that for a moment with it all worked out. Imagine that it's better than you could have even imagined. So I'm going to invite you now to close your eyes for a moment. And just imagine that you're peering into your life and it's 3 years from now. It's all worked out. You're seeing yourself live the life of your wildest dreams. Where are you? What do you see? Who are you with? What does it sound like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like? 5 sensorize this. And feel the energy of that life. I'm going to invite you now to open your eyes. And let's say we actually do have a time machine, and we're going to fast forward for 3 years in the future. And it's all done. It's all worked out. Everything that you've imagined for your life has happened. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to play some music, and I'm going to invite you to just go ahead and write down your vision. Start it off with writing in the present tense. Like, I'm so happy and grateful now that we just got out of the time machine and you see your life and you are thrilled. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to play some music, like I said. And I'm just going to invite you to just allow yourself to journal about what your life looks like. I'm so happy and grateful now that, and I'll keep the time. 2 minutes, go ahead. We've got about 1 minute left. So 30 seconds. About 10 seconds. Okay. To be continued. So one of the other important things as we craft the vision, as we design with specificity what we would love, we want to make sure that we're holding this with an open hand. We want to say this or something better even still. And the reason for this is if we get into kind of a grasping energy, we actually repel what it is that we say we want. So we hold it with an open hand, this or something better even still. And this leads me to principle number 2. So there is a power in principle number 2, and it may sound simple, but principle number 2 is actually decision. And there's a great quote by renowned life coach and author Bob Proctor. He says, there's a single mental move you can make, which in a millisecond will solve enormous problems for you. It has the potential to improve almost any personal or business situation you will ever encounter, and it could literally propel you down the path to incredible success. We have a name for this magic mental activity. It's called decision. So what is the deal with decision? Your dream can't happen without you deciding for it. And here's what I mentioned this earlier, but here's what happens. We will sometimes get stymied or push our dreams to the wayside because we don't know all of the steps, or it may seem way out of reach to us. But if you make a firm decision and say, I'm doing this thing, there's power in that. No new process can begin without a firm decision being made. So take a look at this slide for a moment. And I'm going to give you a moment just to read this to yourself. I'll read this out loud now. According to research at Stanford University, it doesn't matter what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. So when I first saw this slide, I was blown away. I was like, how can so many people read this? And obviously the letters are all jumbled up. But the cool thing is, what we now know about brain science is that as long as the first and last letter are in the right place, the brain can figure it out. And I love to show this as an example because it works exactly the same way with building a dream or a vision for our lives. Deciding for new results, a new vision, a whole new level of operating. Remember, transformation, not incremental shifts. From where you are now, putting the how on hold and just being crystal clear about what you would love, and then making a firm decision for it. That is essential. And actually, without it, nothing new will happen. So part of this process is putting all of the how on hold and just continuing to ask yourself, what's mine to do today? What's mine to do today? And committing, I'm doing this thing. I am doing this thing. So I shared with you my vision of serving millions of athletes all over the world. I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this thing. Do I know all of the steps? No, I don't. However, I am doing this thing and raising the collective consciousness of sport. I'm doing it. I've made the decision. So every day I'm asking myself, what's one thing I can do today to move my life to be in alignment with that big vision? And as we do this, we're gonna notice we're spiritual beings having a human experience. However, very natural part of the human experience is to notice some fear. And so principle number 3 is befriending your fear. It's very normal for us when we don't know how it's all going to work out, or let's say, you decide to pour and invest all of this money into a business that you have no idea is going to take off or not. There's going to be some fear associated with that. And there's fear associated with any aspect of our lives that we're doing something completely new, operating in a whole new way, or committing to something that we've never committed to. I mean, even with a marriage, it's a little scary, right? There might be a lot of, wonderful, exciting things, about actually getting married and committing your life to somebody. But there's also, it's very normal to have part of you being like, ugh, I don't know what life is going to have in store for us, So principle number 3 is befriending your fear. And here's where paradigms come in. So I mentioned some paradigms as a set of beliefs and kind of like an operating system, like keeps your results at a certain level. Here are some common paradigms. Where are you going to get the money? How are you going to do that? Where will you find the time? Yeah, right. That isn't going to happen. So these are some very common paradigms when you're moving in the direction of a dream or a goal that you've never accomplished before. And when you start to notice, I'm doing this thing, and you commit, it's very, very normal for these paradigms to start firing. And when you're deciding for the new results, there's 3 ways that paradigms often show up. And I have good news written over the top, because the good news is if you're experiencing any of these 3 Ds, you are on the right track. That means you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. You are you're choosing growth. You're going in a direction perhaps that you haven't gone before. So the first D is delay and distraction. Well, yeah, I'm going to make that phone call and look into that speaking opportunity, but first let me just do the laundry, or let me check my email. right? Have we all been there? I know I have. The second is dissuasion. This is the part of you that you can hear from that says, well, this isn't really right for you, or maybe you don't really want this. It tries to dissuade you from going after the goals or the dreams of your heart. And then finally, DEFCON 1. This is where your nervous system is on full alert, where you're feeling anxiety and panic. And I mean, I actually had this experience when I quit my hospital job in order to start my private therapy business. I remember having a conversation with my boss, and then I went in my office and closed the door and was like, oh my gosh, I just quit my job, and like total panic set in. So I don't know if you can relate to that, but that's another way. I was going in a direction. I had been employed by, a lot of other employers, and I decided to be a business owner. I had no idea what that was going to be like. So my nervous system was on full alert. But in order for new results, we have to face these parts of us that are scared, or the part of us that wants to dissuade us, or the part of us that wants to sneak in and delay so that you focus on something that maybe isn't a needle mover. And there's two parts of every single one of us when we commit to and we decide for our dream. There's a part that says, yes, I'm doing this thing. And then there's another part that says, what if I fail? And what is that part? What is the part that kind of brings us to mind with what if I fail? The part that asks that question. It's the voice of fear. Fear and failure. Now's not a good time. Wait until later. Or I'll make sure you don't experience pain again. I'll make sure you're not embarrassed. I'm here to keep you safe. All of these are ways that, and things that are very common that we hear from that are kind of prerequisites along the road to doing something brand new, creating something brand new in our lives. I remember one of my very first speaking engagements. I was really comfortable in my office with the one-on-one or two-on-one or family on one. But when I started getting up and speaking to groups of people, that was a terror barrier that I really had to face. And I remember leaving a speaking engagement and being like, God, I bombed that. And I was feeling so awful, being like, this is too hard. I don't think this is for me. But again, I'll make sure you don't experience that pain again. I'll make sure you're not embarrassed. I'm here to keep you safe. Those are some voices of fear and failure. So it's important for us to know that when we hear from those parts of us, that's what it is. It's fear and failure. So let me just share with you a couple of famous failures, because I always think that this is such an opportunity. And there are so many of these. I could share with you famous failures for an entire seminar. But I love this quote by Michael Jordan. And if you're not familiar with basketball, Michael Jordan is from Chicago. He was on the Dream Team back when the Bulls were winning championships. They won 6 NBA championships, and which is kind of like unprecedented. And Michael Jordan says, I've missed over 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. And I love that quote, because he is keeping stats on his misses, but he's not letting it stop him. And, people argue about this, but he's arguably one of the greatest of all time basketball players. Another great famous failure is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock was from a family that grew up in poverty. He actually, his dream was to be drafted in the NFL, and he was not drafted in the NFL. He wound up joining the WWE, and that's kind of where The Rock was born and the start of his success. And I know that these are dated stats, so I'm sure it's well over this at this point, but his net worth is like around $65 million, and his films have grossed $2.2 billion, more than $2.2 billion, and his net worth is more than $65 million. So it's just important to know, like, he would be considered someone, he could have just given up and said, well, my dream isn't meant to work out, but he continued to check in and advance, like, what's my next dream? What's my next dream? And now he's named one of Time's 100 most influential people. Another Chicago person, Oprah. She was fired by TV executives and she was told she wasn't fit for TV. So this isn't something that just happened to Oprah one time. She got told that over and over and over again. So think for a moment, you know, if you were told over and over and over again, how committed are you going to be to your dream if you keep running up against failure, against failure, against failure, or you're not getting the break, you're not getting the big break, and you continue to you know, show up and do the thing, and you're just not getting the break that you're looking for. Fear and failure are prerequisites for great dreams. So befriending your fear, it's going to be super imperative that the part of you that wants to go forward wins over the part of you that wants to play small. So if you hear from that part of you, like, don't do that, or you're not good at it, or you've been rejected so many times, say, not today, fear, not today. And I mentioned this fear and failure prerequisites for achieving great dreams, and we learn to walk by falling down. And it's so cool to see this. I have a 2-year-old son, and you know, all of us started out as non-walkers. We didn't decide one day that, well, we didn't hear from that part of us. It's like, well, I just am not meant to be a walker because I keep falling down. My son, it's so great to see. He can walk now and he can run and do all kinds of stuff. But if he has a big tumble or if he's climbing on something and he falls off, he'll cry. And then when he's still crying, he'll say, you can try it again. And I love that. I'm like, gosh, you know, that is the spirit. And my dream for him is that he will always keep that in mind for himself. You can try it again, even when he's crying. Or so for us, you know, putting our arm around that part of us that is sad or feeling pretty beat up and saying, you can try it again. We learn to walk by falling down. So failure is part of achieving a great dream. You're going to experience some failures along the way, but that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. If you know you would love it and you are committed to it, then and you're open to being redirected. If you're no longer in love with the idea or with the vision, you allow something new to emerge, but you are committed to living in a way that feels really expanded to you. So I'm often asked, you know, by clients and people in my webinars and events, so what can I do when I hear from that part of me that wants me to quit or to play small? And I always tell it, I'm going to tell you right now, here's something that you can do right now. Reconnect with the vision. Go to that 3 years, it's all worked out, and you saw yourself living that life and feeling expanded and being so alive and having the freedom you want to have and having the love you want to have and giving what you want to give and sharing what you want to share and serving who you want to serve. Connect with the energy of that life. And then ask yourself, what's one action step I can take in each arena of challenge that would move me in the direction of my dream? And I'm going to invite you too to put a by when date on this. And that's how we ground it. You know, you put it in your calendar for at least 48 hours from now. I would invite you to not do any longer than that because then it's less likely that you will take action. So even if you know it's going to take you like, well, let's say 4 hours, at least mark it in the calendar so that that's the action step you can take, is that I blocked off 4 hours to do X, Y, Z. So let's recap what we covered, and then I'm going to bring this in for a landing. I mentioned that I have a gift for you. We covered mastering your results by expanding your awareness of the pattern for success, and knowing what the pattern is increases your results. And I'm going to recap what the pattern is in a moment. We also know to change our results, we have to change our thinking. So generating new ideas by asking the question, what would I love? And being guided from that place. And the 3 keys are designing your vision, designing your dream, deciding for your dream, and befriending your fear. And it's important that you know you are worthy of your dream and living a life that you absolutely love. So I mentioned that I have a gift for you, and between my coaching and my speaking schedule, I have carved out a handful of sessions for vision breakthrough sessions. And what these are one-on-one conversations with me where we get crystal clear on where you are, what you would love to create, and the next most important step for you to get there. Now, these sessions are valued at $250. So this has your name on it. If you know that you want to apply this material and take the next step, here's what you do. My email address is up there. Send me an email, Erica@MaximumAchievementCoaching.com. Hey, Erica, this is Sarah. I'd love a session. And we'll get you set up. And so just take a look at this slide up here for a moment. This is the same element. You know, we know that water can be as innocuous as a droplet or as powerful as a thundering stream, thundering river. So on the right, we have the meandering stream. Maybe it'll get to the destination, and it does get to the destination. It just takes a lot longer because the structure is different. And on the left, we have the thundering river. It actually has the power to take out villages. So you get to choose. Are you going to take this information and be a meandering stream with it? Or do you know that you want to really ground this and wrap a structure of support around yourself and capitalize on the opportunity for a strategy session? These sessions will fill up, and they're very limited. So I'm going to invite you to do this today if this has your name on it. And I want to just close with this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says, "You're the only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be." So as you close out this webinar and take on your life, know that spirit in you is expressing through your longings, your discontent, and what you would love, your vision. You have greatness in you, and you absolutely can live a life you love living. It's been